This is a video record of our 2014 Tour of Italy trip. This is part 3. In this part, we continue our time in Venice, including dining on the island of Burano. Then we visit Verona, Milan, Lake Maggiore, Lake Como, Genoa, Pisa, Florence, Siena, and back to Rome. Our second day in Venice was July 24th. We got up and had an excellent buffet breakfast, then we boarded a boat back to Venice. Our first stop was another souvenir factory, but this time it was watching glass blowing. Then the obligatory stop in their gift shop. And just like the last time, no one bought anything. The next stop was back in St. Mark's Square. We were all given free time to explore Venice. Robin and I started by going to the top of St. Mark's Bell Tower, a decision we would soon regret because of the gathering rain clouds. We waited in line for an hour before we got up to the top of the bell tower. Then it rained in buckets and everyone in the windowless tower got drenched. After we came down from the bell tower, we walked to Venice's most famous bridge, the Rialto. The Rialto crosses the Grand Canal and is filled with many stores. Then we returned to St. Mark's Square, where our tour group boarded a boat which took us to the island of Burano. We all walked to this restaurant and had dinner. After dinner, we had time to wander around Burano with all its colorful buildings.
Go. Wait. Mama wants to go to the restroom too. Go, go. Yeah, go together.
Wow. Yes.
I know, awesome.
We returned to Lido Island, and our tour guide Chris said he was going swimming on the far side of the island, and whoever wanted could join him. A few of us went, and even though we did not go swimming, we had a good time. The next morning, the 25th, we all got into a boat and returned to our waiting bus, passing St. Mark's Square on the way. So we left Venice and drove about 2 hours to our next stop, Verona. The city of Romeo and Juliet.
Okay, we're in Verona. This is a Roman bridge that was built before Christ. This is Dante Square, and there's Dante himself. Supposedly this is Romeo's house. Don't know that for a fact. So this is Juliet's house and the famous balcony area. Yeah, massive graffiti here.
Wow.
Here's the Verona version of the Colosseum.
We spent about 3 hours in Verona, then we boarded our bus and drove another 2 hours to our next destination, Milan.
Okay, we're in Milan now. This is the La Scala Opera House. This is the Galleria, the very first one in the world.
In the middle of the Galleria was this design on the floor called the Turin Bull Crest. They say you will have good luck if you can spin a full circle on your heel in the hole indicated with the red arrow. Naturally, I just had to give it a shot. I tried once, but I only got halfway around. Then I decided to give it one more try, which of course turned out to be a huge mistake. I made it about halfway around when my heel got caught and sent me hurtling to the very hard marble floor. Of course, Robin did not get a shot of me hitting the floor because she was trying to stop me from falling. After my very embarrassing debacle, we walked outside to the town square and Milan Cathedral.
Right there is the Galleria.
After seeing the cathedral, we walked to this department store which had a unique section of snack foods, including candies and these chocolate shoes. Robin also found a Disney store. There was also one in Verona. We left Milan and drove another hour to our final stop of the day, Lake Maggiore. We arrived about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. As we pulled into our hotel, we noticed that it was really upscale and that the cars around the entrance were all very expensive, like this Ferrari. We were told that the hotel we were scheduled to use was full and we were being transferred to this 5-star hotel. Our room overlooked the lake and had a huge picture window that slid open for views like this. We couldn't believe our luck and quickly took ourselves on a self-guided tour of the hotel. Here is a view of the lake from a section of the back patio. Here are the outdoor pool and spa, and here's the indoor pool and spa. Behind the hotel, they had a small pier for private boats. The thunderclouds over the mountains were right out of a picture postcard. Nighttime around the outside of the hotel was purely magical. The next day, July 26th, our group boarded a boat for a trip to one of the many islands in Lake Maggiore, Isola Bella, which is a 24-acre island with a small hotel, several restaurants, and a well-maintained mansion with spectacular gardens. After a tour of the mansion, we were free to roam around the island for a couple of hours. The island is also home for about 100 white peacocks. Later, we took the boat back to our hotel and had lunch. After lunch, we boarded our bus and drove to nearby Lake Como, where we took a narrated boat tour of the lake, which is the Italian home of the international rich and famous.
Okay, this is Lake Como. We just got through driving about an hour and a half to come here, and this is where we're going to go see the homes of the rich and famous. And here's two rich and famous people right here. Hi, rich and famous people.
Hello.
Over this dip in the mountain is Switzerland.
After our boat tour, we walked around the town of Como, including its cathedral. After we returned from Lake Como, I relaxed in the indoor hot tub while Robin reviewed her pictures from our busy day. That evening, our tour group again boarded a boat and we sailed to another island in Lake Maggiore called Isola Madre. When we arrived, we went straight to a restaurant called Ristorante La Piratera, which translated means the pirate restaurant. The host/owner was crazy about pirates, but he was the only thing in the restaurant that referred to pirates. After dinner, we retreated to one of the most beautiful sunsets we had ever seen in our lives. Luckily, they gave us until dark before they rounded us up and returned us to our hotel. That night, Robin and I had a hard time sleeping, remembering all of the things we had done this day and looking forward to the last part of our tour of Italy, Pisa, Florence, and Siena. We woke up on the morning of July 27th, still in Lake Maggiore. We had a fabulous breakfast, boarded our tour bus, and headed for our next stop, Pisa. Just after we got on the road, our tour guide told us that the Costa Concordia was being brought into the port city of Genoa that morning. The group voted and decided to make an unscheduled stop in Genoa to see its arrival. The Costa Concordia was a cruise ship which ran aground and sank in 2012 due to the negligence of its captain. The accident happened next to an island on the western coast of Italy and made headlines worldwide. 32 people died in the accident. It took a salvage team 2 years to raise the Concordia and bring it to the nearest port, Genoa. The Concordia arrived in Genoa on the day we left Lake Maggiore. We arrived just as the ship was being towed into port. The roads were jammed. So here is the Concordia as it was being towed into port. We only stayed for a few minutes, then we left for Pisa. We stopped at this picturesque roadside diner for lunch. Later we passed by a famous white marble quarry above a small town called Campolingi. What looks like snow on the mountains is really the exposed marble as it is being quarried. When we arrived at Pisa, we had to transfer to this shuttle to take us to the Leaning Tower. After we got off the shuttle, we had to walk through an area filled with peddlers and people like this hoping for donations. Then we were able to view the Leaning Tower.
Typical picture. That's that angle. The wind's better from here. Looking that way or from behind.
Interesting fact, the Leaning Tower is hollow inside, as you can see. Now here are some views from on top of the Leaning Tower. Of course, we had to take the obligatory photos to look like we're holding up the tower, as well as some regular shots. After we left Pisa, we got back into our bus and rode to a private farm with which Trafalgar has a contract to give us a taste of local family life and native cooking. The family has even written a book with recipes and pictures from their farm. Our bus parked beneath a train trestle and we walked up a dirt path to the farmhouse. The lady on the left owns the farm with her husband, and she gave us a tour of the farm and talked about the history of the area. Then we were taken to a wine cellar where we were served a delicious dinner. After dinner, we all went outside and danced to a DJ and played with their dogs and cats. We left before it got dark and drove the rest of the way to our next stop, Florence. This is our hotel in Florence. We were surprised when we saw that our room had a private balcony from which we were able to call the kids. The next morning, July 28th, we had breakfast, then we were taken on a walking tour of Florence by a local guide. We started the tour at the Cathedral of Santa Maria del Fiore, aka the Duomo. Like all the Italian cathedrals we visited, this cathedral had the omnipresent bell tower.
Do you have any questions?
This day was so beautiful that we decided to wait in line and walk up to the top of the tower. And here is one of the views from the tower. While we didn't quite make it to the top of the tower, we climbed high enough to see some of the important sights of Florence, including the Basilica of Santa Croce. And the Palazzo Vecchio. We also got a great view of the Duomo itself. Below you can see the line for getting into the bell tower. Our walking tour ended here at the Basilica of Santa Croce. This is the burial place for many Italian luminaries, including Michelangelo and Galileo. Here is the video I shot inside the basilica. Here is the tomb of Michelangelo. And here is the tomb of Galileo. As usual, if there was a Disney store in any city we visited, Robin was sure to find it. The next stop on our self-guided tour was at the Ponte Vecchio, or the Vecchio Bridge. We walked to the bridge and sat at one of these openings. The bridge was crammed full of shops, most of them selling jewelry. Like this one. I wanted to buy Robin an early birthday gift, and I wanted to get it from a store on the bridge. We walked to the far end of the bridge and found a small jewelry store at the very end of the bridge, marked here with the red arrow on your right. Here is the store from a reverse angle. I ended up buying Robin a silver turtle medallion there. A short walk from the Ponte Vecchio was the Pitti Palace, but like most other museums in Florence, it was closed because it was Monday.
Wandering now through Florence, and we saw this one intersection with these three streets coming into this one street.
In the late afternoon, we decided to head back to our hotel. On the way, we passed the Basilica of Santa Maria Novella. Our hotel was down the street running between the white building on the right and the brown building next to it. Just as we turned to walk down the street, we saw this little restaurant and decided to have dinner there. It was delightful. After dinner, we continued back to our hotel. At dusk, we decided to return to the Ponte Vecchio for some nighttime picture taking. We were glad we did. As we approached the Vecchio, we could see many people on the bridge still shopping and enjoying the early evening. We walked past the bridge to the place we had been earlier in the day and took pictures there until it got dark. The next morning, July 29th, we boarded our bus and drove to a hill just outside Florence. From there, we were able to get a panoramic view of the city. And here again is the Ponte Vecchio Bridge. Then we again boarded our bus, sitting, of course, in our usual places in the back of the bus, and off we went to our next stop, the Florence American Cemetery and Memorial just outside Florence. This is the final resting place for 4,399 American soldiers killed in the Italian campaign. From there we headed for our last stop of the trip, Siena, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of Italy's most visited cities.
Okay, we're now in Siena. This is the main square in Siena. Hard to see, but that's their tower. That's their bell tower.
How's that? Ex-husband always said I was no good at navigating.
We were on our own for lunch, so Robin and I had an authentic Italian pizza. Neither of us thought it was any better than pizza we have here at home. After lunch, we saw these two priests. Robin asked them if she could take their picture, and they graciously agreed. This is a view of the main square again from another angle. Robin and I managed to get in some shopping. At this store, Robin found a couple of gifts for her mother. Afterwards, we enjoyed some Italian gelato, one of the many we had on this trip. Later, we left Siena and headed towards Rome. Before we got there, we stopped at another private farm for a farewell dinner. After our dinner, we continued on to Rome, where we spent the night. The room this time was outside Rome, which meant that we would not be able to do any more sightseeing, but the high quality of the room more than made up for its location. The following morning, we boarded a plane that took us to Paris. We were both quite excited.